Judge Erin Maguire is a Republican strategist. Dan Kanninen back with me again. Hello to you all. Thanks for being here. I'm going to start with Erin on this one. What are Republicans doing here?
Well, when it comes to political misgivings that the president has, he seems to keep score better than I do. He holds a grudge like I do a handbag every day of my life. And this is not one he's letting go. Thank you, Mick.
Yeah, I laughed.
And this is one he's not going to let go of. And yes, it's not groundbreaking that a candidate would be smeared by their opponent and lied about by their opponent, and certainly by Hillary Clinton. None of this shocks me. If there was anything nefarious or illegal done, yes, that should be investigated. However, for Republicans, for the MAGA base that really supports Trump, this is just more red meat to say we knew it all along, it was total corruption and they were wrong the whole time, they tried to rig it, so you're just fanning more flames.
Yeah, I just find it really hard to imagine that the base that he cares about, who are really riled up about the Epstein files, are going to suddenly be like, oh, Hillary Clinton, yeah, right, forget about the Epstein files. And so I think it's really interesting. I'm scratching my head about why this actually is newsy, and also point back to the fact that there was...
I guess there's a question there of... did this escalate to the point of the federal government taking action on behalf of a political candidate?
Well, I would say that what we saw and what was, quote, revealed so far looks like it was a conversation between the Soros Foundation and some members of the DNC. I don't know that we've seen anything that rises to that level.
This is after the election. I mean, just to go back for a second, there's a 1,000-page Senate intelligence report chaired by Republicans, Marco Rubio and Lindsey Graham, agreeing that Russia attempted to interfere in the election, and that happened. Now there's a disagreement among many about whether the Trump campaign contacted Russia in a way they should not have or was part of that. But that's canon. That is done. This is all trying to conflate this here.
That's the crux of it, though, for Trump, though, is what you were saying, is that a lot of the public was led to believe under Russiagate that Russia had meddled and influenced the election in his favor and actually changed the outcome.
And the Mueller report,
can you imagine winning president of the United States and everybody
but the
runs
Mueller
around
report
saying
said
they
very
didn't get
clearly.
it?
I just want to make this quick point. The Mueller report said very clearly that they didn't have evidence one way or the other in that point, but it was a fair question to ask. And now he's trying to conflate all of this. And to your point, I agree with you, Erin. This is about red meat stuff, and it is about distracting from the fact that he's openly having a conversation about pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell, who's a sex predator who has 1,000 victims herself.
So, Mick, here's how I want to tee you up, because there's the conversation of trying to smear your political candidate about an issue. Cue up the first soundbite. Basically, the idea of trying to smear your political opponent, right? Roll it.
Our president has finally released a birth certificate. Now, we have to look at it. We have to see, is it real? Is it proper?
I mean, Donald Trump was doing all that stuff to Barack Obama, suggested he was from Kenya, didn't believe he was a natural-born citizen, said Obama was a Muslim.
Let's go around the horn. It's newsy because there's new documents out today. These documents are just declassified. You're right. It's not newsy for a politician to be smearing another politician. They do it all.
I just showed you video.
The issue is whether or not there was a government contact, and I think it's a fair question to ask. The stuff that came out today is actually from before the election. It was dated July of 2016. The reports you talk about are afterwards. The investigation is afterwards, but I think that's why we're talking about it. I don't think there's a story here unless there's some government intervention.
Unless it moved to that level.
It's a big story.
Do you think that your party, and by the way, this is involved with like the top intelligence, I know this was put up on the Hill, but do you think your party should be looking back 10 years, 9 years?
Lynda would have us say it's not going to distract from Epstein. And she's right, okay? But that doesn't mean it's still not of interest to these folks. They can say, you know what? I'm fascinated by this. I want to know about this. Oh, and by the way, I still want to see the Epstein files. I think voters, the base, can walk and chew gum at the same time. They want to know what's going on. Does it help him politically? You know, look, it's part of the overall transparency. If I was going to make the case, it would be, Mr. President, this is why